banks were never meant to, they were only meant to be transactional. They were never meant to like hold your money. And so once I understood that concept and that made sense, I was like, well, why do I keep sticking my money in the bank? Why don't I just put my money where the bank puts our money?
What was the biggest thing you learned about money and financial literacy that you dispelled because now of your newfound career in business and insurance business?
It's funny that you asked me. There's two things that I can clearly think of that were defining moments for me that made me go, this is real. The first thing was when...
Let's get this money. Euros, dollar bills, getting this on out. Let's get this money. 1 year in, better know I'm on it.
All right, well, welcome to another podcast. We have a show for you here today. We got a bunch of different topics here on companies that started during a recession. The stock market, Andre, is plummeting. Why some people are celebrating. Believe that? By the way, we were just talking to a client yesterday, Andre, and he literally was crying on the phone.
Wow.
With his financial advisor not giving him details of what to do. He lost $30,000 so far in the last 7 days.
Wow.
70 years old.
70
years old. New Amazon series, House of David, will bring unlikely biblical heroes' story to life. Millennials tackle rising costs, balancing debt and savings in an uncertain economy. More Americans are cash poor and paying a high price for it. Here's how high. By the way, have many of you still been affected by inflation still? And a lot of people have been destroyed because of inflation. The destructive politics of hate versus the power of faith. Interesting topic here. The disturbing social media trend that tells children to cut ties with their parents. We're going to be covering that on this show. A company involved in a Pearson Airport plane crash was obsessed with DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. President Trump calls out Maine Governor Janet Mills for refusing to keep men out of women's sports. Our girl dad here will have a little bit of opinion on that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a girl dad times twins. How do you tell a true believer? Not by what he or she says, but by what he or she does. So, Andre, welcome to the podcast, big dog.
Hey, it's great to be here. I appreciate it.
The reason why I brought you on here is because you're a guy that served our community as a paramedic and fireman.
Right.
And you've moved from Florida to now Dallas.
Right. Thinking
that you're getting involved in real estate. Then you fell into the insurance business.
That's correct.
Shout out to Dean Mason out there in Florida and Orlando. So I don't want to give it, anything from there, but tell everybody why do you find yourself in Dallas, and what's been your journey so far in the insurance industry with PHP?
Yeah, so it wasn't written. It kind of happened completely by accident. Not to go too far back, but when I was knee high to a grasshopper, my grandfather brought me to a firehouse when I was 8 years old. And while I was there, they got a call, and I was like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And I pursued that journey pretty much since then. I joined the Fire Explorers when I was 15. First time I did TPR, I was 15 years old. And I've been running 911 calls my whole life. And I was like, this is what I want to do. This is how I want to
TPR?
CPR.
Oh,
First
CPR,
time I did CPR, I was
yeah.
15 years old. I'll never forget it. It was in a gas station. Guy went into cardiac arrest, and that was the first time I did it at 15.
Wow.
And I was like, man, what an incredible way to be able to spend your life, to be able to give back in a way. You possess skills and knowledge that not everybody possesses, and people call you when they're at their worst, and you got to show up at your best. And I kind of love that. I love the fact that,
good way to put it.
Yeah, I love the fact that it was a career field that I can run 1,000 chest pains, but everyone would be different. And I didn't have to worry about like the monotony of like showing up, going to work, cubicle, eating lunch, and kind of go home, wash, rinse, and repeat. I wanted to do something different on a daily basis, and I didn't want to be inside. So yeah, I did that for a while, moved up, became a lieutenant. I was running my own crew, and I met my wife, and that is what kind of ultimately ended us up out here in Dallas. We relocated out here. I mean, we're rapidly approaching 4 years.
Yeah.
Time goes by quick. And when I decided to leave the fire service and come out here, I was going to just, the family business has been real estate. My mom was a mortgage, and my dad was a realtor. Second job was in real estate. So I'd always liked real estate, and I was like, hey, this is another way I can give back.
Yeah.
I can help people secure a home and help the, maybe people that wouldn't initially be able to qualify for a loan. I wanted to see what I could do to like get back to the community. So I convinced myself that this is how I'm going to provide value in the marketplace. This is how I'm going to give back. And it was just through fate that, somebody texted me once and said, hey, I know you just moved out to Dallas. I don't know what you have going on, but I may have an opportunity for you. So I didn't really pay any attention to it. I was like moving forward with my real estate
Interesting,
journey.
combo there. Yeah, go ahead.
You're right. So the ironic thing is the person that sent me that text. I don't know if you'll see this or not, but the person that sent me the text is not the guy that you take business advice from. This was the guy that you called. You wanted to go out, have a good time. He was that guy. Hey, let's go blow off some steam. Let's go have a good time. He was that guy in my life. He wasn't the guy that I'd go to for business advice. So I didn't really think much of it at the time. And I was out here, hadn't really pursued or moved forward with the real estate thing, which is very not like me. I'm the type of guy, if I say I'm going to do something, I get it done. I don't like things like lingering and kind of hanging on.
How come? You're just in a transition?
So I was using the house as an excuse. We bought a house out here. We moved out here. We didn't know anything. We didn't know anyone. So we were painting the house. I was fixing up the house. And I was just kind of like letting the real estate thing kind of fall on its wayside. And we were out here like 6 weeks. And I still hadn't taken my state exam. I didn't take my national exam. I'd done all the courses. I'd already done all the courses before I moved out here. All I had left to do was just take my exams, and I hadn't done it, and that's very uncharacteristic of me. So that was kind of like the first sign of maybe this isn't what I really want to do, because if
You
it
feel
was
passion for it?
yeah,
You fire for it?
I think I was just
Going through the motions?
yeah, and I just kind of convinced myself that it's what I should do. It's what it kind of made sense, but I didn't have that passion for it. So when I got that text, a few weeks later, I said, okay, what is this? Tell me, what is this? And he tells me, and like you mentioned, I get on a Zoom call with Dean Mason, and Dean breaks it down. And I was like, listen, I don't want to do any of that, but you mentioned you're going to teach me about money. He goes, yeah. And I'm like, okay, that I want. I don't want to do this. I don't want to start a financial business.
Yeah.
I don't want to run a firm, but if you're going to teach me about financial literacy so I can improve my life and my family's life, I'm down for that.
Interesting.
So that's how I ended up getting started. And they were out there in Orlando. I was out here in Dallas, and I spent 2 weeks on Zoom. I'm like, this is not for me. This is not for me. I called the guy that sent me that text back, and I was like, hey, listen, I think you should pursue this. I think this is going to be great for you, but I've decided to go real estate route.
Yeah.
And 5 minutes later, I get a phone call from Dean, and he's like, listen, man, before you make a final decision, I want to introduce you to somebody. I want to introduce you to Matt and Sheena Sapaula. They're having a meeting tonight. Put on something sharp and go. And I went, and I wasn't sure what to expect.
Yeah.
But I'll never.
We just moved down here.
Yeah, you guys had just relocated, and I hadn't even known that. I didn't know who you were in the business. I didn't know who you were professionally or personally. So he said, just show up at this address and ask for Sheena Sapaula. I said, okay. So I showed up at the address, and I'll never forget how I felt the first time I walked into a PHP office. I immediately felt welcomed, and I immediately felt included. I just moved out here. I knew nobody. So I was uncomfortable. I wasn't sure what to expect. And you may not realize this about me now, but I'm probably the most introverted person that you've ever met. I'm very, very introverted. I'm very to myself.
I couldn't tell from Tuesday's pregame that you're introverted. Andre's rocking in our office on Tuesday.
So yeah, I felt welcomed. I felt included. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to quit today. And I just kept coming back. I kept coming back. And then I really started to realize, I'm like, no, this is how I can give back. This is how I can really serve my community, is by educating and teaching people, giving them information about stuff that's deliberately kept out of communities. When I really realized, when I started learning about finances, when you were educating me about finance, you took me under your wing and you were teaching me and you were training me. And I'll never forget when I said, I'm like, Matt, how is it I'm in my mid 40s and I've never heard about any of this?
Crazy.
I've never heard about an IUL. I've never heard about an annuity. I've never heard about tax-free retirement. And I'm like, how is that possible?
Yeah.
And you kind of broke it down like, well, it's deliberately kept out of the media. Like there's tight restrictions on advertisement. And I was like, so they don't want us to know.
Yeah.
That was my first indication. I was like, this is what I want to do.
This is interesting that, Doug Andrews just sitting in that room, that chair right there. You were here for the interview.
I remember, yeah.
And you were able to ask him a question a couple podcasts ago. And it's amazing how political financial products and services are.
Crazy.
And it filters down to the people that actually ultimately use the financial products and services.
Right.
There's a guy, I forgot what his name was, but he was doing a study on 401k returns. Of people who have a company who has a higher returns and a company who has a lower returns. And he come up with a term called yield disparity. Like, what is that? What's yield disparity? So basically, the higher income earners of the company have a higher rate of return, even though it's the same 401k plan.
Right.
Than the people that maybe the receptionists and the janitors and the entry-level people have a lower rate of return on the 401k plan. It's the same 401k plan.
Right.
And the revelation was, well, people with a higher income level have different conversations with people, their advisors, their counsel, their network of how to take advantage of the 401k because they have more access to that financial literacy and financial conversation than
Right.
people in the lower income brackets would.
Sure.
And he called that a yield disparity, even though it's the same
Same product.
401k plan
Yeah.
and same retirement plan. And so oftentimes people, as Doug mentioned a couple weeks ago, is that just because nobody's ever heard of IUL or index annuity doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Right.
He says, well, have you ever seen your brain?
How do you know you have one? Right.
Exactly. And so when people are thinking about financial literacy, let me ask you this question before I get back into your story. What was the biggest thing you learned about money and financial literacy that maybe it was a myth or it was a misconception, it was a doubt, disbelief that you dispelled because now of your newfound career in business and insurance business?
It's funny that you asked me. There's two things that I can clearly think of that were defining moments for me that made me go, this is real. The first thing was when I learned about BOLI.
BOLI. Bank-owned life insurance.
Bank-owned life insurance. I was like, okay. I was like, what is that? So when I really started learning about fractional reserve lending and bank-owned life insurance and what the banks do with their money, and you put your money in the bank, but it's not there. Like banks were never meant to.
Yeah.
They were only meant to be transactional. They were never meant to like hold your money. They were meant for transaction. So
you think about this vault and
right,
Wild
there is no vault.
cash,
Right, because you see it in the movies and you see it's not true. So you put in 1,000 and they loan out 9,000. Like the money is not there. So we're giving them money. They're taking our money and they're purchasing life insurance with it, getting a return. They're giving us peanuts and then they're lending our money out in the form of debt.
Yeah.
Right. And so once I understood that concept and that made sense, I was like, well, why do I keep sticking my money in the bank? Why don't I just put my money where the bank puts our money, right?
Yeah.
In what they call a tier 1 asset. That was number one.
By the way, it's funny that you say that because people think life insurance is a scam.
Yeah.
Why? Right? But it's the same thing, but reversed.
Yeah.
Right? So they have this, they take it, you said they take your 1,000, but they go out to the Federal Reserve, they loan out and they get 9,000 back.
Right.
So they take the little, but for them, they benefit.
Sure.
Flip side is the insurance. They give us a lot for the little
For
we
the
put
little,
in.
right? Pennies on the
It's
dollar.
like these insurance companies are daring us to buy life insurance.
Right.
And so we put in $25, $50. Brian in our base shop, 27-year-old father last year. He's 28 now. Brand new baby, wife. And within 24 hours, he got $1 million policy for $28 a month.
Yep.
It's just crazy how people think that the insurance. I think that scam is not forcing that insurance company to pay out that claim whenever that time comes.
Facts.
You keep putting your money in and you stop before they're about to pay the claim. No, that you hold your feet to the fire.
Yeah.
Make sure they pay the claim. What's your second one?
The second one was, I won't mention the company, but there's a publicly traded company. And since they're publicly traded, they have to release their financials.
Yeah.
So you're looking at all the C-suite executives of this, if I mentioned the name, everybody would know who it is, right? Of this publicly traded company. I'm looking at all these C-suite executives, the CEO, the CFO, the COO.
Yeah.
And I'm looking to see where they put their money. And when you're looking at this, they're putting peanuts into the 401k and they're all funding their life insurance policies with 6 figures.
That's right.
So that made me realize, I'm like, what do they know that I just don't know?
Yeah.
There's got to be something that these people know that I just don't know. So I just went looking for those answers. And I'm like, I want to figure out why do they tell their employees to put their money in 401k, but then that's not where they put their money.
Yeah.
So why are the people with money investing their money into vehicles that they're not encouraging their employees to invest their money in?
That's yield disparity. That's what we were just talking about. Yield disparity. So in other words, they have conversations with a network of people, different advisors at that executive level, than people in maybe reception, janitor, entry level positions they may not have access to. So they're getting benefit of financial literacy and conversation because of that network versus people in the lower, maybe lower to middle multicultural demographic. So what have you experienced as a Jamaican? Yeah. Right? As a man, two-part question is, what have you experienced the difference between Florida and Dallas?
The first one I would say right off the bat is the people. So in Florida, and this, I'm probably biased, but I grew up there. I was born in Jamaica, but I grew up in Florida. And, if somebody just kind of like walks up to you, a complete stranger just walks up to you, like in Florida, you kind of like have your guard up. You're like, what do you want? Why are you talking to me? What's your angle? What are you trying to get? What are you trying to get from me? Like, that's just a natural reaction. And then as soon as I moved to Dallas, like everybody would just start walking up. Hey, how's it going? Oh, I see that you're looking for that. What are you looking for? And not an employee of the store that I was at. I remember I was at Nebraska Furniture Mart and I was just looking at some security cameras to install in our new house. And I was just looking at some different things, and a complete stranger just walked up to me. He was like, hey, I see that you're looking. Can I help you find something? I was like, what's your angle? I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
why are you talking to me? I thought that was weird.
Yeah.
But then I would go to the next store and somebody else would talk to me. And then I was putting my cart back at a grocery store in the cart return, and somebody else just struck up a conversation with me. So I found that to be the first real difference between South Florida and here. Or people are just generally friendly, and people will strike up a conversation with you just for no reason at all, other than to say hello, hey, how you doing?
It's that Southern hospitality.
Yeah.
Here in Dallas. So, what has been your experience as, because, we believe in DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, not forced policies, but we believe in diversity, including everybody. And if they're willing to perform, they get elevated to highest levels, because it's called meritocracy. So for me, we're going to create a new show, brother. It's called DEI, Done Earned It.
Done it.
How's that one? Right?
I love it.
Done Earned It, did earn it.
I'll be the first in line to get one of those shows.
Yeah, 100%. So, I mean, what do you feel? How do you feel about you being a black man, a Jamaican man in the financial services industry? Is it what they think it is? Is it what people think it is? There's a lot of bias, a lot of negativity. Is it redlining? Is insurance companies, racist and biased towards you, Andre?
So, me personally, I can't say that I've ever felt that an insurance company or whoever has been racist towards me or biased towards me. I will say this: I've commonly felt, because of the career that I was in prior to this in the fire service. The fire service is typically, if you look at the typical person that goes into the fire service collectively over the country, white Italian males
or Irish in Chicago.
Right. That's the main demographic and makeup of the fire service, right? And when I decided from when I was 8 years old that that's the career path that I wanted to pursue, I wasn't letting that stop me. I wasn't letting that prevent me from getting into it. I just said, hey, I just got to make sure I'm better than them. Like, if you're not going to give me that job, you're going to have to explain why. If I scored 98 and they scored a 78, you're going to have to look me in my eye and tell me why I'm not getting that job. So I always took it from the standpoint of I have to outperform you. And I think that's where like my competitive spirit came from. I want to do it better. I want to do it cleaner. I want to do it faster. So if I don't get it, you're just gonna have to look me in the eye and tell me why.
Right.
And if I didn't get the job, or if I didn't get the position, okay, I didn't cry about it. I wasn't gonna get bitter, and I wasn't gonna go, scream this is not fair or it's racist. I just wanted to focus on, okay, well, what can I do better next time?
Yeah. You never had a victim mentality.
Never had a victim mentality about like, oh, I deserve this, I'm entitled to this, or I'm entitled to that. I just, if something didn't go my way, I wanted to figure out where are my leaks, where are my weak spots, what am I missing, what am I not seeing, and just find a way to improve.
I love it. Andre, it's a pleasure having you on the podcast. You're one of our 6-figure income earners and rising with inside our Dallas office. And I see you leading in the office. If something happened to you post big event, post Atlanta, you're in a different gear. You're a different speed man. And I appreciate the willingness for you to want to be a leader in our office and to usher the new folks that are coming in, you coaching and mentoring them.
Yeah.
So rock and roll.
No, I love it, man. It's been an incredible ride so far. It's hard to think that it's only been 4 years and what I've been able to accomplish in that time. And what I'm really, really excited about is the future of what we haven't even experienced yet, what we haven't done yet. Like we haven't scratched the surface. On what we're going to do inside MSM and what we're going to do inside PHP. And that's what I'm really most excited about, is being on that journey, watching my continued leadership development, my continued growth as I continue to evolve and get into different rooms and become more uncomfortable. It's weird now. Like I actually look forward to that uncomfortable feeling. So now I know when I'm in that uncomfortable feeling, oh, that's what I got to turn to. So now when something like scares me or something, I'm apprehensive about something or something starts to give me anxiety, I actually pay more attention to it now. Where before I'd like find a reason to like, okay, let me circumvent this. Right. Now I kind of run towards it. And, and I like that growth. Cause in the fire service, I was an officer in the fire service. So I was a leader by definition, right? If I gave you an order, you had to follow it. But that's a very different type of leadership than it is here. This leadership requires you to grow individually, personally. There, all I had to do was study, test well, and make the cut. And then I was a leader by definition, right? Here, that's not the way it works. Here, you really have to grow, develop, and somebody has to look at you and say and see in you, hey, if I hitch my wagon to his trailer, he's going to help me get where I want to go faster, sooner than I could on my own. And I think that's the real part of like leadership that a lot of people don't really realize fast enough, is that you have to develop into somebody where somebody else will look at you and be like, man, I want to rock with this person.
I felt the similar thing in the military, is that if I just stuck around long enough, they'll naturally promote me.
Right.
But I never want to be that guy.
Yeah.
I want to be the guy that said, hey, Sapaula, we're having a meritorious mode. What does that mean? That means you got to do some extra things to earn your promotion. I'm like, well, let me go for that then.
Right.
So oftentimes people just want to do nothing and they wonder why life passes them by and why somebody doesn't promote when you can actually take that control in your own hands.
Sure.
So you're dealing with people's money.
Yep.
And the stock market this past week plunges, and $4 trillion of money has been lost in this last plummet. So this Forbes article here talks about why certain people are actually celebrating. This is a funny tweet here. I'm immune to stock market implosions because I have invested in DVDs, a vintage globe, and a timeshare. Some probably one of the outside of DVDs, one of the old school, vintage globe, old school.
Yeah.
Timeshare, you should not do. My opinion. I could be wrong, but every time I got ripped, it's because somebody's presented me a free two hour presentation on timeshare because I get something else for free. But the people that are celebrating this are people that are heavy on cash, and they're waiting to have opportunities open up. Now they're gonna move in and swoop and buy companies. Your experience now in financial services, when the stock market drops, Forbes is not read by the average Joe. It's read by people who are affluent. They want to think differently, or they have thought about differently about money. Whereas the multicultural middle class where we come from, it's clock in, clock out. It's get a job, that typical mentality. So, what have you seen boots on the ground in terms of your clients as regards to money in the stock market plummeting so far?
Yeah, I honestly, I think it's just really more of an access to information. I think when you're in an environment where people are having conversations, because if you think about it, like when I grew up, this is just straight Jamaican tradition, right? There's certain things that are there's certain conversations that are just off limits, right? We don't talk about money. You never ask somebody how much they make. You don't talk about money in most Caribbean families. Like you just don't talk about it. And so we kind of come up thinking like, we don't talk about money. We don't talk about finances. And what I've learned about being in the financial services and what I've seen like wealthy people, you know what they're always talking about? Finances. They're always talking about investments. They're always talking about it. Hey, I came across this, right? They're always sharing ideas and they're coming across, they're coming up with like different ways on how to invest and move money. And I found that very interesting when I first got into financial services, that people aren't shy about talking about money. I mean, once a month we have an event at our office where we hand out checks and everybody's showing like what they made. Like it's very common to see what people are making when you're in the financial services industry. So when I see this, I really think it's just from a lack of education. Yeah. It's a lack of education. And because we are conditioned to believe from when we're young that we don't talk about finances, it's rude to talk about finances.
Yeah. Good point.
So I think when you're talking about like this disparity and, like now we have this preconceived notion of, well, the rich are just going to get richer and they're just going to take advantage. I don't think it's a matter of taking advantage of it. I just think they're having conversations earlier in life. They're having different conversations than the rest of the people are having. And they understand that when the markets crash or the markets go down, that's an opportunity to invest. Why? Because everything's getting ready to do what? Go on sale. Yep. They just understand that. They're just having different conversations. And that never made sense to me before I got into financial services. I looked at it as like, man, I just lost 10% of my portfolio. Yeah. What am I going to do? I just have to wait it out because that's what we're told. Yeah. The markets will rebound and you have time to recover, which is true. The markets will rebound, but it doesn't mean your portfolio will.
Oftentimes people think that rich people are jerks. It's not fair that they're rich and I'm not. And that's the whole premise of this article. Money-wise, the U.S. is an unequal economy with the top 1% of households owning 15 times more than wealth than a bottom 50% combined. So a lot of people think there's lack of fairness when it comes to our economy. I mean, we are a capitalistic economy. Now, as nice as you are, as good as you are, Andre, I didn't give you a six-figure income. Sure. I may have given you a platform and a playbook, but you had to do the work.
Sure.
Now, if you didn't win, whose fault is that?
Mine.
Exactly, because you didn't execute the playbook. But now, if you win, who gets the credit?
Well, there you go.
you.
Right.
So is that fair?
I think it's 100% fair.
I agree too as well.
Here's the one thing I've noticed. Everybody, we're all teaching the same out of the same book.
Yeah.
We're all teaching the same skills.
Yeah.
We're all teaching the same mentality.
Yeah.
The difference is just how you apply it.
Yeah.
It's all 100% on you, which is why I think the biggest thing I think people really have to understand is if you don't cultivate a mindset of wanting to learn and grow, you're just going to keep looking at things the same way.
How much access to information do you today, Andre, have in this era than when you were growing up?
Oh, you have access to a ton more
We
information.
had encyclopedias and libraries.
Like I literally remember the guy knocking on the door and selling my parents the books of encyclopedia. Like I remember
I
that.
bought some encyclopedias myself.
Yeah. So I mean, and I remember that would happen. We would sit down at the table. I probably cracked one or two a couple times and looked through, but I never looked through any
You got
of that.
research from a book.
Right.
If you want to study a subject matter, you had to go to encyclopedias or library and
go
yank
find
books
it.
from the shelves and study it.
Sure.
People today don't even know what an encyclopedia is. They know what Wikipedia is,
Right.
but they don't know what an encyclopedia is today. Okay, so that being said, you have more access to information today.
Mm-hmm.
So if you had access to information back when you're 18, 19, 20 years old, 25 years old, to how to make $1 million, would you watch that content?
Sure. Sure. Why?
So more people today have access to how to get rich online, but what are they doing with that information? Is that fair?
Yeah. No, that's like you have the access, the information's there for you to take, right? You have it. It's at your fingerprints. You can, I think it's such an how do I say this? I think it's crazy that people can actually say that it's unfair that you have this and I don't have it. I have access to every single thing that you have.
Yeah.
If I want to buy the house next to you,
Yeah.
I have the ability to go out and
100%. Please do.
and go buy the house next to you. Like that's like nobody's keeping that
Yeah.
from me. And I think I love that. That's really the forefront of what we teach and we train here. And that's what I love about our environment. Like you have to grow. That's what I was talking about on Tuesday. Like if you don't grow, you die. Like you have to grow. And the people that are willing to go through that period and that era of uncomfortability to want to grow and to develop into somebody that's new and unfamiliar and uncomfortable, those are the people that win at the highest level. And I think that's why it's so, like a lot of people complain. A lot of people don't want to go through that because it's hard.
Yeah.
And it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And it can sting.
Yeah.
But I think if you just make the decision that, hey, this is temporary. It's a temporary sacrifice. I got to go through this hard. And I love the fact that it's hard. The hard is what makes it great.
Yeah.
Right? The hard is what makes it great. The hard is what makes it worth it. Otherwise, everybody would do it.
Yeah.
And then there wouldn't be anything to it.
Think about it. I mean, who's excited more about the rain? Somebody that didn't plant anything in the ground or the farmer?
Yeah, the farmer.
I'm excited for the rain to come.
Right.
So I don't have to have my sprinklers out.
Right.
I'm excited to have the rain come down because I actually did the work to plant something because eventually that's going to turn into harvest. Whereas the lazy man who says, you know what, I'm just going to kick back and Netflix and chill. I'm not excited about it, but at the same time, too, I'm dependent upon that farmer. Is it the farmer's fault he's got food during the winter? Is it his fault that he's got stuff stored up? It's not his fault. He did the work. And a lot of people today just don't do the work. And people are like, thank God Bezos is losing money. Thank God Zuck and all these guys, Elon Musk is losing money. I think there was a picture there that says these 4 guys that went on Trump's inauguration, they've lost, $4 trillion of wealth, since his inauguration. These guys, or 4, I forgot what the exact numbers were, but they've lost billions of dollars of wealth. Do they care? No, because first of all, it was on paper to begin with. It wasn't necessarily in their pocket.
Right.
Their net worth was on paper, and they're celebrating because now they can deploy capital because recessions are planting and cultivating season, where the average Joe has a chance. Which let me move to my next topic.
Yeah.
So let me give you some examples of companies that started during a recession. I'm just going to talk about the last recession we just had. Okay. Which is 07, 09. Remember the Great Recession?
I do.
Right. A lot of people don't remember the dot-com bubble. That's when I first started my career. But in 07, 09, here's some companies. I'll give you 10 of them. Okay.
Okay.
Let's see if you recognize these companies. That are possibly names today. They started during the recession. Okay. Number 1, Airbnb. Is that a name?
Yep.
Number 2, Uber. Is that a name?
Sure.
Number 3, WhatsApp.
Yep.
That a name? 4, Venmo.
Yep.
That a name?
Big.
5, Groupon. Right? Started during recession, 08, 09. Square.
Yep.
Yeah. Cloudflare.
Yep.
Instagram. Hello. Started 2010, developed during the recession. Pinterest.
Oh boy.
Last one. Slack. So these companies were all created during recession. And let me break down. Let me give you some justification why so many successful companies launched during recession. Number 1, it's lower cost. So what happens in a recession is that usually most people get sadly laid off.
Mm-hmm.
And your acquisition for talent during that time frame is a lot more opportune because people are leaving a company, going from company to company. And I mean, I got involved in the insurance business because normal companies wouldn't hire and take shots on guys like me without a college degree. So I took a shot of getting involved in the sales business.
Sure.
Second thing, when there's a recession, there's a change in consumer behavior. People start shifting. People become more cost conscious. I remember, what was the most valuable thing for you during the pandemic outside of money?
The most valuable thing for me, see, during the pandemic, I was still with the fire service, right? And I'll tell you, a lot of people worry. A lot of people were worried about being essential.
Uh-huh.
A lot of people were worried about their job. If there's one thing that I really loved about the fire service and being a first responder is I didn't have to worry about who was in the White House. I didn't have to worry about what policies. Like, I knew my job was secure.
Yeah.
And that was probably the most valuable thing during the pandemic for me is like, I knew it was going to be tough in the medical field. It was a difficult time, but I didn't have to. I wasn't worried about being laid off.
I love it.
I wasn't worried about losing my job.
So, what became more valuable? What do you think became more valuable that people were buying more than what it really should cost during the recession? Do you recall anything like that?
Insurance?
No, like what
people are going out and spending their money on?
Yeah, like more so than they would normally have. Like, they've never spent this much money on this, but because a recession hit, a pandemic hit, people spent a gobble of money on this.
Oh, I don't know. Tell me.
Like Lysol.
Oh yeah.
Right, Lysol.
Oh, Lysol, gloves, masks,
Toilet paper. So things that's weird. So there's a shift in consumer behavior.
Sure.
So for me, one of the most valuable things for me, because I'm a foodie, I like going out to eat.
Mm-hmm.
Most valuable thing for me was DoorDash.
Mm.
And the most valuable thing for those restaurants was DoorDash.
Right.
Because they couldn't get people in the restaurant. Right. So guess what happened to DoorDash? DoorDash was one of these companies that was created as a result of the recession, tough times. Digital acceleration happens when successful companies launch during a recession. Business need online solutions, fintech, and e-commerce tools. I mean, we've got you're part of our company now where we have bamboo. How effective is bamboo for you? And that was an innovation that Patrick had invested in when we got money from De La Hoya to create bamboo. How effective is that tool app to help you run your business in PHP? Been to see what your business is looking like based on that.
Yeah, having a tool that'll allow you to be able to track your business. I can literally go back from day one and like track my business year over year, see how it's growing. Like every month right now, like we have an initiative within my organization and it's to beat our prior best. So I always bring up all the numbers from March of 2024. I said, this is the target, like this is our goal. So you're able to give something to shoot for, like a target to shoot for. So I think Bamboo is a tremendous piece of software that we have that's helped me keep track of my business. It helps me keep track of my clients. It helps me know what's going in, what's coming out. So it's been I've only known Bamboo. I've only been in PHP since Bamboo's been here. So I only know Bamboo, but I can't imagine not having it.
Before the pandemic, before that flash recession, before this different moment in America that we experienced as compared to the last time we did, and it was 1918 during the Spanish flu. Mm-hmm. Have you ever been on Zoom?
No.
Any online conference?
No.
So it was because of this recession. So in other words, to that point, right? It accelerated your learning curve and exposure to digital tools.
Sure, because I was able to get access.
And you said you were 2 weeks on Zoom before you came to our office in Dallas.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So it accelerated digitally how businesses are built. And last thing here of why successful companies are launched during during recession is because there's a disruption in traditional industries. Startups fill gaps where traditional businesses were failing. Our business was created in 2009. Mm-hmm. PHP was created in 2009. We are disrupting the insurance business.
Sure.
You said when you walked in, you felt comfortable, right? If you walked into a New York Life, a Merrill Lynch, a Northwestern Mutual, I don't know, you may not feel as comfortable. Do you know why? You may not know. Do you know why?
No, I do know why. And that's mentally, it's kind of like what I was expecting. That's
really?
That's what I was anticipating.
Because it's traditionally filled with older men.
That was just my preconceived, my stereotypical preconceived notion of what this was going to be like.
But it's true though.
It is true. It's a stereotype, but that happens to be true.
Yeah.
So that's what it was. And when I walked in, I was like, man, everybody looks just like me. and everybody's speaking the same language, and everybody is excited.
Yeah.
And that threw me for a loop. So
But that doesn't mean though we don't recruit white people or
no, of course,
or Asian people or whatever, right?
No,
it just happens the default that way.
Right. I like the fact that we're able to reach the multicultural middle America and just educate people. That's all we're doing.
Yeah.
I provide value in the form of education.
Yeah.
And, when I was telling you about that company, that when I saw and I looked to see, okay, where the wealthy are putting their money and where the average Joe Blow is putting their money, that's really what pioneered and spearheaded me wanting to get on social media. When I came to PHP, I didn't have an Instagram account. I didn't have a TikTok account. I had Facebook, and I only used it just to communicate with some friends and family members that still lived in Jamaica and in Canada and abroad. And I realized that I can effectively leverage that tool to go educate people on information that's deliberately kept out of their communities and out of their neighborhood.
And now you're bridging that gap.
Right.
That being said, let's talk about our millennials. So millennials are tackling rising costs, balancing debt, and savings in an uncertain economy. So millennials are postponing major life events and relying on credit cards to manage rising costs. Peer survey of 35,000 millennials found that 59% have considered postponing major life events such as weddings, home purchases, or starting families due to financial challenges. Nearly 40% of millennials increasing usage. Other credit cards reported 20% increase, over $500 than the last year. With inflation rising, 59% of Americans would put $1,000 emergency on where? On a credit card.
Yep.
Instead of having it in the bank. You deal with people in their finances every day. You deal with both millennials, Gen Z, the sexiest generation ever created in history of humankind by God, which is Generation X.
Amen.
What do you see? I mean, is there any validity to that based on your experience in the financial services world?
I think there is, and I'll tell you why. I think the millennials are really the first generation that we're starting to see, where you're starting to really see that sandwich generation, right? Because they're still taking care of kids, and then, but now do they also have to start taking care of parents, mom and dad, right? So I really do see why millennials are going to have to start postponing things like marriages and things like maybe putting kids in private school and things like travel and vacation, because now they really are sandwiched between hey, we have the responsibility of taking care of our kids, making sure that our kids are, squared away and taken care of. But now mom and dad are getting older, you know? And I think what we're starting to see too, in society, modern medicine is improving. So people are living longer. And I think that's why we're really starting to see that increase in diseases like Alzheimer's and dementia. And when you look at the cost of having to care for that, I'm going through that right now with my family, right?
Yeah. Likewise.
And and I'm seeing what my mother's having to go through with caring for my dad and being his primary caretaker. And the ironic thing is my father was diagnosed with Alzheimer's the year my mom retired. So the year my mom retired, my dad is diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and my mom has been his caretaker.
She got another job.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So I look at this, I'm like, man, I'm so grateful for this opportunity, which allows me to help take care of my family and make sure that, dad's squared away. Because when you look at the cost of what it costs to have a memory care, you can $8,000 to $10,000 a month, easy. And that's not like the elite high. That's just the average middle of the road type of facility. So I can see why they would need to put stuff off and have to, reallocate funds that they were saving for other things to put it elsewhere to take care of a family.
We got a client in the Washington, D.C., Maryland area. You're spending $20,000 a month on healthcare.
I believe it.
Because she can't physically help her husband.
I believe
so
it.
how somebody else come in and they have to have 24-hour care. So people often think, Andre, right, that when I retire, I'm going to be on a lower tax bracket because I'm going to be living on less money.
Right.
What a biggest fallacy that is. And that's a big reason why I wrote the book Gotcha. Because that type of thinking gets you off on the wrong financial track. The other area here too as well, when we're looking at this demographic, more Americans are cash poor and paying a high price for it. Even high income Americans are struggling with cash flow. A survey by Solo, a community finance platform, found that many middle-class Americans, including those with college degrees, homeowners, investors, and six-figure income earners, are also cash poor. Mm-hmm. Meaning they lack liquid cash for emergencies. 1 in 7 cash poor Americans makes over $75,000 annually. And the average unexpected expense for those living paycheck to paycheck was $1,825 last year. So Americans paid over $39 billion in borrowing fees, 35% more in 2023 to cover surprise expenses. Subprime credit cards had the highest average borrowing cost at 48%, up from 41%. So in other words, you're in the worst of times, these credit cards will give you credit, but they're going to stick it to you.
Sure.
Because they know you need the money. And I don't know how that works out, but I wonder how much more the default rate goes up. So payday loans averaged 35%, up from 33%, increased 67% due to origination fees, late fees, and penalties. So with that being said, AOC and what's her name from another two Latinas, both it's a bipartisan bill. They're introducing that interest on credit cards should be capped at 10%. So they're going forward, once that legislation passes, credit card companies can't charge no more than 10%, which a lot of people think it's helping out. But let me talk about the first issue though. People that are making money are still cash poor due to inflation. Have you been seeing that?
I have. As a matter of fact, I think I read an article about a year and a half ago, and it said something like 78% of people making $250,000 are still living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
Right? Can you imagine, like in today's day and age, making $250,000 a year, but you're still living paycheck to paycheck? So I think what we're really starting to see is a lot of people may be asset rich but cash poor. They just don't have cash on hand to be able to handle those day-to-day activities. And I think a lot of that comes down to, again, it's a lack of financial literacy.
Yep.
We teach everything in this country except how to manage and deal with finances. And when I'm talking to millennials and I'm talking like the number one thing, and it was even for me, I'm not a millennial, I'm a Gen X, but even for me, like even when I got started, what did I want? I didn't have intention of doing the business.
Yeah.
I wanted the financial literacy. I just wanted to learn how to better my finances. So it's not taught here. You can go to a fancy 4-year degree or 4-year college, get a fancy degree in finances and still not learn anything about cash flow, not learn anything about currency, not learn anything about how money actually works. You'll learn how to do a P&L. You'll learn how to do a spreadsheet. You'll know how to balance a book, right? How to write a check, but you still don't know and understand how finances work. And I think that's what gets a lot of these young people, millennials, into trouble is they don't understand finances. And it's so easy to get a credit card these days. You could get a credit card, you get approved for a credit card with a 27% APR, and you just run it up. And then now you find yourself stuck in a situation where you're dodging phone calls, afraid to answer the phone.
Yeah,
because
I've been there, man.
Same.
Wait, think about it, Andre. Look, if here in America, you've got choices, man. You got freedoms. And I think that's the biggest dilemma we have in America today is there's people, you have freedom. You have the freedom to be rich, or you also have the freedom to be broke.
Sure.
Based on the choices and habits that you choose to display, that you choose to follow. And if you choose to be broke, if you choose to do nothing, you cannot be upset at the people that choose to be rich and getting it done.
You're right.
Now you're a victim.
Right.
As if you're helpless, that you can't do something about it. You know, we have a saying in the military, lead, follow, or
get out of the way.
Get out of the way. And if you don't want to be a part of the solution, at least be a good consumer. You know, buy their product or service, but don't get mad at them. Like there's a clip where this politician, she's grilling, Howard Schultz, billionaires. He goes, listen, pause real quick. Let me just tell you about this whole moniker about being a millionaire. So I grew up with nothing. I grew up on government assistance. Everything I got today is because I've created value in the community. I created jobs, and you damn right, I got billions. Nobody gave it to me. I earned it.
Sure.
So this whole process of people having this moniker of getting rich is because somebody made different choices. And as you just said, maybe in the past we've had a hard time getting ahead. Maybe the political environment in the past made it very difficult for the people in the Black and brown community to get ahead. But a guy like you today, you're a perfect example of that's not apparent in America today.
Sure. Here's how I look at it. It's very simple. If I want to become a millionaire, it's very simple. All I have to do is I have to be willing to do the things that 95% of the other people are not willing to do.
Simple as that.
It's that simple. So if I want to be in the 5%er, I just have to be willing to do what 95% of the people are not willing to do. It's that simple. And that's your millionaire status.
I love it.
And then your billionaire status, the 1%ers, they're just willing to do what the 5% are not willing to do. That's really all it is. They're willing to put in that extra work, that extra appointment, that extra phone call, and they reach a billionaire status. So the 1%ers are just willing to do what the 5%ers are not. Yeah. And the 5%ers are just the ones that are willing to do what the 95%ers are not willing to do.
Did you happen to catch Patrick's interview with the CEO of Ben & Jerry ice cream?
I haven't.
Yesterday? Okay. So he's like, I don't believe there should be billionaires. But bro, you built $1 billion company.
Yeah.
You have $1 billion in sales.
Right.
With your your ice cream. He got bought out by Unilever, right? So he sold the company, but he's like, there should be any billionaires and da. It's just so unjust how people in America are just so repressed, oppressed, whatever, because they can't get ahead. And I was like, wait. Patrick's like, hold up, time out. I'm a kid from Iran. I'm a refugee. I came here in America to follow the same principles you followed to get rich. I got it. I feel 100% glad I came to America. I'm glad America has this system called capitalism that allows a kid like me to get to where I'm at today. But you feel bad about the system, but you got to and then on top of that, they're tasting ice cream. I think one was called like Dirt and Mud or something like that.
Okay.
And Pat, this is good. And the guy was having Cherry Garcia. By the way, my favorite Ben & Jerry's Cherry Garcia.
Okay.
And the guy's like, yeah, I've never had that before. What? How are you the founder of Ben & Jerry's ice cream and you've never tasted your own damn product?
Wow.
And then you bash the system that got you to where you're at to serve this ice cream to people that love your product. Like, I don't get that mentality.
That doesn't make sense to me.
Exactly. How do you process that?
You know, I had an early mentor in my life, and it's funny because of how I value mentorship today. I look back at it, I didn't realize she was a mentor in my life. Then she was. I realized that she was now. And I remember she had this thing. She would always say to me, she goes, "Don't lay a dead bird at my feet." She's like, if there's a problem, come to me with a solution, and then let's work it out. Don't lay a dead bird at my feet. So if you view that as a problem, then tell me what's the solution.
Yeah.
What's the fix?
Yeah.
How do we fix it? Like, what's your thought? What are you going to bring to the marketplace? What idea? What innovation are you going to bring to the marketplace to fix it? Because that doesn't make sense to me. Like, if I work hard enough to make $1 billion to build $1 billion company, why should I not have $1 billion company?
Yeah.
So are you saying like my sales should be limited?
Yeah.
Or should I? Do I have to cap what I'm bringing to the marketplace, or do I have to reduce my costs, my prices? I have to reduce my margins. What's the solution?
Yeah, exactly.
I'd be curious to know what's the solution. So if I created a product that's demanded and people want it, what's the solution to me bringing that product to the marketplace?
It's crazy how. Even Patrick had this question, same post to Jerry, the head of the talk show, Jerry.
Oh, Springer?
Jerry Springer.
Yeah.
Because he's good friends with the Clintons. Now, listen, it's not a Republican or Democrat conversation here.
Yeah.
I can care less if you're a Republican or a Democrat.
Sure.
All I care about is, do you take care of your family?
Right.
You know, do you provide? Do you protect? Do you advance? Do you grow? Are you more interested about the color green than trying to pick one side? Are you on the side of your family? Anyway, that's my side.
Right.
And if I cut your veins, does it bleed red, white, and blue? Do you love America?
Right.
You know, the country that allows you your home. And so Jerry said the same thing too as well. We shouldn't have any billionaires. And the same question that Patrick posed to Jerry, the same question posed to the guy here at Ben & Jerry's Ice Cream, says, if you don't like the fact that so many people are poor, why don't you just give your money away? Like, well, the laws have to, forget the laws. Give your money away right now.
Yeah.
Well. If you feel so bad
Right.
of people being rich like you because society isn't helping out, well, then you go ahead and be proactive just like you did with your business and start giving your money away. You don't have to wait for any politician. Listen, we always say, doesn't matter what happens in White House, the most important thing what goes on in
Your
house.
Amen.
You know? And so this whole law by Ocasio-Cortez and Representative Ana Paulina Luna, they're capping credit card interest rates at 10%. Senators Bernie Sanders and Josh Hawley introduced companion legislation last month in the Senate. Quote, credit cards with high interest rates regularly trap working people in endless cycles of debt. At a time where families are struggling to make ends meet, we cannot allow big banks to shake down our communities for a profit. During his campaign, President Trump pledged to cap credit card interest rate at 10%. We're making the pledge more than a talking point by introducing legislation to protect working people from remaining trapped under the mountains of debt, said Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. What do you like about this, and what don't you like about this? I have three thoughts. What do you think is going to happen?
I'm not sure what's going to happen. Here's what I could tell you is a pretty easy solution to it, right? Instead of capping credit card interest rates at 10%,
yeah,
right? And again, the government stepping in and telling another company how they have to run their business. Why doesn't the government step in and then mandate financial literacy? you should not be able to purchase a credit card until you've gone through a course and you understand interest rates, you understand APR, you understand like how that works. Why don't you provide the education to people to then make an informed decision? Now you can make it 27, you can make it 30, you can make it 40% interest rate. If I'm informed and I choose to swipe that card and not pay it off at the end of the month, well, who's to blame? Yeah. I'm now armed with the information. What I do with that information is completely up to me. So that's kind of how I look at it. Why cap? Why hand tie the government stepping into a business and telling the business, well, you can't do this, you can only do that. Why doesn't the government step into an area where this could be done very easily? Yeah. It could be a mandate that you can't graduate high school until you've gone through a basic financial literacy education course. Yeah. It's a mandatory before you can receive a high school diploma.
By the way, I 100% agree. I 100% agree. Here's what I think is the three problems we're going to face with interest rate being capped at 10%. Number one, fewer people qualify for credit. Because now they're going to say, if we can only charge 10%, we can only issue credit to the best of the best credit scores. Right. Because we can't afford a loss. Like, for example, this article here, right? So more cash, more people are paying, putting money and emergencies on credit cards, and they're charging, 48%? Those days are soon to be over. Right. So they know they can't make money on people who are in a bad financial position. They're just going to limit who they're going to be lending money to. So who's this going to affect? It's going to affect guys like me who filed bankruptcy to try to get credit reestablished again. Number two is going to force people who can't normally have like zero credit, like say, for example, you're 16, 17, 18 years old. Now you coming out in the real world. Now you're trying to get credit. Good luck to you. Now you're really, really high risk. Right. All the people that have a business that are dependent upon issuing you credit, like the business credit guys. They come to me, I can give you $200,000 of funding. Come to me, I can show you which credit cards to do. Those businesses would be having a hard time surviving. Now, business will be increasing if anybody's to help you increase your credit score. Right. I think those businesses will thrive. Second, there's going to be more hidden fees. More hidden fees are going to be found. You're going to have to read the small print. Fewer rewards. I remember when debit cards used to give you travel awards. Yeah. Debit cards. Now they went away with that. So fewer rewards, fewer Amex points or Capital One, whatever credit card you use, there's going to be fewer reward points because they got to find ways to make up for lost profits. And here's the worst part. There's going to be a rise in riskier loans. And so if credit cards aren't an option, payday loans and title company loans, those type of loans will fill in the gap at worse interest rates at the top of the maximum they can credit. Because remember, this just applies to what? Credit cards. Right. Doesn't apply to personal loans, doesn't apply to title loans. And these title loans are one of the biggest ripoffs out there. I saw one, 300%.
Yeah, that's crazy. I think you're going to see a lot more of predatory lending. I think you're going to see a lot of people who don't have the education be targeted.
Back to your original point.
Yeah, and come back here. And I think another area too is I think it's really going to affect small businesses, right? Because now these small businesses who would accept a Visa or would accept these credit card companies are probably going to have to do what? Raise their transaction fees. So most people, I don't know if they know or really understand that every time you swipe a card, that corporation, that company is paying a 27-cent transaction fee, a 30-cent transaction fee. Yeah. So if they can't raise the interest rates above 10%, these small businesses are going to have to eat some of those costs when they increase transaction fees.
Right. By the way, this might also usher ahead forward more Bitcoin and cryptocurrency usage. Yeah. Because if people are going to say, I'm going to pay that, I'm just going to go leverage, different forms of currency.
And what another great topic too. I think as soon as people hear the word cryptocurrency, this was myself included, it's this immediate, nope, I don't want to hear nothing about it, stay away, no. And I think like if people would just go read a book, go educate yourself on it. And because even in the cryptocurrency world, there's levels to it, right? There's levels where you can earn 1,000, 2,000, 3,000% rates of return. That's normal in the cryptocurrency world. But there's also more stable cryptocurrency if you just read about it where you can leverage it and use it as a tool to supplement your finances in your portfolio.
And I'm talking about, cryptocurrency and the effect of using it as a consumer, like using the product. Some people look at and hear that and say, man, does that mean I need to be investing in cryptocurrency? Listen, I've seen a lot of people hurt with cryptocurrency, more so than I've seen people gain from cryptocurrency. So just depending on how tolerant you are, we were just having a conversation with I'm brain farting. What's his name? He was just at our conference talking about annuities.
Oh, Tom Hegna.
We just had a conversation with Tom Hegna. And Tom Hanks said, listen, one of the best things I've ever done in my life is put 1% of my portfolio into cryptocurrency.
Sure.
You know? I always say the best thing you can also, you know what the other thing that beats cryptocurrency? Best investment is yourself.
Bingo.
Right? Because you can predict that.
Yep.
You can count on that. So Amazon is releasing a series called House of David, bringing in an unlikely biblical hero to life. The series follows David's ascent from outcast shepherd to Israel's greatest king, while King Saul falls victim to his own pride. This series, written by John Irwin, wrote the script as a teenager after visiting David's tomb in Jerusalem, calling it a dream come true and something that I've been working towards my whole career. The show, produced in partnership with MGM Studios and Amazon, was shot on location in Greece.
Wow.
Go figure. David's complex and deeply human character makes his story timeless. Everybody knows the story about David and Goliath,
Sure.
right? But David, a lot of people don't realize, he was a man after own God's heart despite his flaws. He made some pretty epic mistakes along with his epic accomplishments. He's a very human character, Irwin said. The series explores David's personal struggles, navigating love, loss, and violence in the court of the very man he's destined to replace. By the way, his son was my favorite, who's my biblical hero. Number one for me is Jesus. Number two, it's not David, it's his son, King Solomon, who's known as the richest and wisest king who ever lived. We're just flipping through Netflix, and Jordan goes, Dad, I want to see that. I want to see that. House of David. So,
Yeah.
So what do you think now more about Amazon and MGM creating shows about biblical history?
So if you'd have asked me that question 2 years ago, I probably wouldn't have had an opinion on it. If there's a single area in my current life and in my business, and since I've been in PHP, if there's probably the one thing that I'm most proud of and I'm most excited about is my newfound walk with Jesus, my newfound faith. Like you would never hear me talk. Now I was I believed, right? I was, I don't know what you would call it. I was
You're a casual Christian.
Yes.
Yeah.
I believe, but I did not practice. I wasn't going to church. I wasn't reading the Bible. I wasn't doing any of that. And I've increased my walk with Christ since I've been here.
Praise God.
And I am so freaking excited about it. Like that really fires me up. So I saw this, and I don't watch a lot of TV anymore. Like when we moved here, we bought this giant 80-inch screen that's hanging on. It's a paperweight today. The only person that watches is my 6-year-old daughter, Aliana.
What a great TV for her to watch.
So I don't watch a lot of TV today, but I did see that, and I saw the trailer for it. And I haven't watched it yet. I haven't started the series, but I'm excited for it. Yeah. So you asked me, how do I feel about them doing it? I love it, and I think there should be more of it because I have a choice as the consumer as to whether or not I want to watch that or if I don't. Yeah, I don't have to order Netflix. I don't have to watch it if I don't watch it. But I love the fact that it's out there as an option, and I think if we can get more people, especially young people, just to be interested and ask questions about more spiritual and biblical ideas and thoughts, I think it's a way to be able to, start having conversations and start bringing that family unit back together. Because now this is something that at the dinner table with my family, that this is a conversation we can all have. I can sit down with my kids, with my family, and we could talk about it. There's not a lot of topics today that teens or millennials are going to be open to talking with, but this is a family discussion. We can start bringing back that family dynamic and that family unit. I think you were just, you just had Dudley Rutherford here, right?
Right in that chair.
And right here in the chair. And what was he talking about? He goes, why 6? 2 parents, right? Mom and dad.
Six
adults. The 6 adults, right? The grandparents from one side, the grandparents from the other side, and the parents. And that's because it's what it takes. And I think we've gotten away from that.
Yeah.
Socially, I think we've gotten away from that, and
it's kind of structure though,
and kind of that structure. Right. And I think shows like this may help us start deepening those conversations, and start bringing some of that family dynamic and that family unit back into the household. I think once we remove the Pledge of Allegiance from schools and we remove God from schools, I think that's when you really started to see. And then we introduced, what did we replace it with? Social media, right? Yeah. So if those things are going to be removed from school, we have to bring them back into the household, and I think this is a great way to do it.
The Pledge of Allegiance is just everybody knows. Right? I pledge allegiance to the flag. Now you say, right? Everybody knows that. You'd say that today. People are like, what's going on here? What is this?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America? Why wouldn't you want to say that as an American?
I don't know.
But if you want to read a book that's filled with murder, with violence, with rape, with incest, with greed, with lust, with envy, with jealousy, of wealth, of prosperity, of love, of forgiveness, guess what book you're going to find?
The Bible.
The Bible.
Yeah.
So people, why should I read the Bible? Well, if you want a manual of some of the worst shit that humans been through and how they got through it, you might want to reference the Bible.
Yeah.
It isn't this thing like blah, 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 make you feel. And I think a lot of people would appreciate life more if they had an instruction manual.
Sure.
Now, listen, some of you guys say, well, Matt, you're just trying to shove the Bible down your throat. Well, listen, give me a book then that gives you a more well-rounded, documented piece of what's wrong and what's right that I could use to improve my life in all aspects of my life.
Sure.
From being a father, from being a son, from being a grandfather, to being an entrepreneur, to attacking what's the worst of this world. Give me a manual that helps me have a better life.
Yeah.
Right? And along the way, I find my way to heaven. Amen.
Sure.
Hallelujah.
Right now I attend church every Sunday. Probably the one thing I look forward to the most on the weekends now. It used to be football. Don't get me wrong. I still like to watch my Dolphins. Right. I'm a Dolphin. Right.
Any new free agent?
I haven't. Like I said, I don't.
I haven't watched it.
I have not.
You're locked in.
I have not watched it at all. My daughter this morning get ready for school. Dad, you know I'm wearing green? No, it's St. Patrick's Day. I'm like, oh, it's St. Patrick's Day. I'm like, I didn't even. Right. It's like Monday. I was like, I had no idea. Like things I used to follow and pay attention to. I don't pay attention to anymore. So it's just being able to be. I attend church every Sunday. I look forward to it. I have a Bible study that I go to once a week.
Amen.
It's probably my favorite. It's every Wednesday night. Like everybody on my team knows, hey, can Dre run this appointment for me? It's at 6 o'clock on Wednesday. Nope, he's not available at 6 o'clock on Wednesday. He's going to be in Bible study. So this is an area in my life where I'm increasing my walk. And the one thing that's really helped me do it, there's an app, and I don't, if you want me to mention, you can edit it out of it. It's called Through the Word. And it's Through the Word. It's this incredible app. It goes through the entire Bible, one chapter at a time, and there's 2 segments to each chapter. Yeah. So you have a segment where the pastor's on and he's like breaking it down each chapter, and he's not going through it verse by verse, but he's pulling out like all the key points when he explains it. And then depending on whatever version of the Bible that you want to read, then it's read verse to verse. So you get this this Cliff Note version of it where the pastor is explaining it, and then you read it. And that has helped me like tremendously to be able to, go through it and increase my walk and my spiritual walk with Christ. And I love it. And I encourage everybody to, turn the radio off in your car, download this app. You know what I mean? Yeah. Each chapter is no more than like 6-7 minutes. Yeah. And fill and occupy your mind with some of these other principles that you don't know where it can lead.
Last week I was at Valuetainment and ran into Andrew Tate.
Yeah, I saw that, by the way. That was sick.
And I think one of the coolest introductions I had a conversation with was Jillian Michaels. Mm-hmm. And she flipped from Democrat to Republican to voting for Trump because of base of what her own home in Malibu burned down there in fires in 2018. Anyway, she was talking to me about one of the songs her daughter was watching. And by the way, this is how the devil gets in your head. It's through music. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people don't think about that. Yep. And so she was playing a song. Hey guys, have you ever heard this song? It's like, yeah, I love the song. It's a cool track for Instagram Reels or something like that. She said, listen, the name of the song is called Unholy. Right? I was like, written by a transgender person. I said, really? Tell me more. So, the whole song, if you listen to the song, here's some of the lyrics. Mommy, don't you know daddy's getting hot at the body shop doing something unholy? He sat back while she's dropping it. She be popping it. Yeah, she put it down slowly. Oh, he left his kids at holy so he can get that. Mommy, don't you know daddy's getting hot at the body shop doing something unholy?
Crazy.
But the beat's cool.
Right.
The soundtrack is cool. The lyrics are fucked up.
Right.
Right. And when you look at this type of stuff, it's, man, how do you find yourself in a position of being a believer, being a father in such an unholy type of disposition that our country's in?
It's tough because as parents today, I mean, think about it. What are we competing with? Yeah. My daughter spends 8 hours a day at school, And then when she comes home, there's screen time, which
Yeah.
I do my best and my damnedest to limit the amount of screen time she has
Smart,
access to.
smart.
Right. I really try to limit as much as humanly possible. And then you couple that with what? 2 parents that are working, grandparents that are still working. You don't have that 6 adult in the household. So you really need to make time to make sure that, hey, every week we're locking in, whether it's church, you got to find something, another outlet that our kids can go to and get information that's not tied to TikTok, that's not tied to Facebook, that's not tied to Instagram, but some other avenue that they can go to and fill their head with the values and principles that you believe as a family dynamic that you want your kids to have and serve. And I think that's why things like Through the Word and finding a group and an environment to be a part of where people want to see you grow spiritually, financially, with leadership. I think that's so important today. If you don't have a mentor in your life, if you don't have somebody that's doing things that you believe in, I think everybody needs to go find a mentor and have somebody to go walk through life with that has the same values and principles that you do.
And that's the benefit you have now being an entrepreneur, calling your own shots and crafting your schedule to make time for your daughter.
Sure. Right.
The destructive politics of hate versus the power of faith. Interesting. Here's an article. At the greatest second missionary Baptist church in Chattanooga, Tennessee, Reverend Steve Caudle declared that sometimes the devil will act so ugly that you have no other choice but to get violent and fight. He cited global conflicts, pointing to Gaza and Ukraine before warning that America was on the verge of bloodshed. He further accused Elon Musk of using Doge to force his way into the U.S. Treasury to steal your personal information and your Social Security check. Caudle attempted to justify violence by misinterpreting Scripture. The kingdom of heaven suffers violence, and the violent must take it by force. The kingdom of God is a war zone. It is a battlefield. Now, it's not an isolated case. Representative LaMonica McIver recently declared outside the Treasury Department, shut down the city. We are at war. Meanwhile, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries vowed to fight the President Trump's agenda legislatively in the courts and in the streets. The writer condemns the corruption of faith for political ends, rejecting the politics of hate, instead advocating for faith and constructive action, exemplified by their own work, including a 90,000 square foot leadership and economic center in Chicago. A weak man uses Jesus, but a strong man believes in Jesus. So there's this dilemma where believers today or Christians today, or for those of you looking into finding a faith, you're seeing faith being used as they're weaponizing faith.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I did a IG reel on 3 areas of the Bible that says why you should leave money to your kids. It was lead insurance, right? And some knucklehead leaves a comment, oh, so using the Bible to make money, huh? How hot is the fire gonna burn for you?
Wow.
Right? And I said, man, you're just so heavenly minded that you're no earthly good. Like the practicality of how we need to find the Bible isn't to be used to weaponize people, to help people. So how do you, what's your reaction to this?
Well, here it boils down to it again. Like it's how I want to interpret it and how I want to be able to use that to move forward. Right. When I look at this, I think, everybody's entitled to their own belief. You're entitled to believe whatever it is you want to believe, but you're not entitled to your own set of facts. And I think that is where we get into this dilemma where long are gone are the days where we can have a disagreement about something, but still remain friends. Hey, let's go grab a beer after this. I think those days are long behind us. And I don't know why we can't have open conversations anymore. Why we can't talk and have a roundtable discussion with different topics that you may not agree with, whether it's Doge or who's in the White House, who's the president, or whatever, and still not have difference of opinion, but keep it civil. And
you're making me want to bring a socialist into the podcast. I had to do that for sure, or a person on the verge of belief or non-belief. I think that's a very good feedback on my end. That's why I'm interpreting it too as well.
Yeah, I would love to see that. I really would, because I don't think there's anything wrong with hearing different perspectives and different point of views. Yeah. Again, you're entitled to believe whatever it is you want to believe. You're not going to change my belief system. You're not going to change my values and principles. But having an open conversation with other people with different thoughts and beliefs, I think is incredibly powerful. And
I think a lot of people are finding a lot of their news on social media, which leads us to this next topic. The disturbing social media trend that tells children to cut ties with their parents. Social media has fueled the trend of diagnosing parents as narcissists, often without clinical basis. Online platforms like Reddit's Raised by Narcissists, nearly 1 million members, And TikTok, I feel with posts identifying narc parents using phrases like gaslight, trauma, and toxic. Many self-help books, including Raised by Narcissists and Will I Ever Be Good Enough, reinforces view. However, consultant psychotherapist Allison Roy warns that social media oversimplifies mental health. We want simple explanations of what is wrong with me, who can I blame, rather than acknowledging the complexity of human relationships. You know, I've often said to my kids, I got this from PBD. This is the you know, when you're between, I say 0, your newborn baby, to I'd say 9 or 10, you're in what I call the idolized phase with your parents.
Sure.
Right? My dad's stronger than you. My mom's prettier than your mom.
Yeah.
You know, that hill phase. You know?
Right.
And then other influences come in. Right? I'd say that'd be the preteen phase or teenage phase. Next thing you know, it goes from idolized phase to like traumatized phase. Right? You can't stand your parents. You know, you're criminalizing them for disciplining you, and et cetera, et cetera. And then you get a little older, you start realizing you have your own kids, you start going through life, and now you humanize your parents. So what's your opinion when you see things like this, where kids are looking for somehow, some way to blame their parents for not living the life they want?
I think it's natural that kids are going to go through that demonizing phase that you refer to. I think that's natural. But I think if parents are aware that this is a natural progression that their kids are going to go to, there's a book by Napoleon Hill that I think everybody should read, Outwitting the Devil.
There you go.
And it literally talks about like if, and you could do this right now in ChatGPT. You could, like, if I wanted to create discord with my kids, like as the devil, like what would the devil do to create discord and separation from the family unit, right? And it'll tell you straight up, it would create doubt. It would create uncertainty. It would encourage your kids to go on social media. It would encourage, so you can look for all the things that your kids are looking for right now, and then arm yourself with that information and say, okay, hey, what is our family's values and principles? What are our goals that we have for our kids? Are we talking about things like that with our kids? I think it's so easy for us today to talk to our kids and say, like, hey, you could do anything that you want in life. Yeah. You can be anybody that you want in life. But your kids don't see you winning.
Yeah.
I think it's so important to set the example as parents. Let your kids see you winning, which is why for me, the first time I got to speak on stage at an event, I brought my daughter on stage with me. She was standing next to me as I was speaking to a few thousand agents. I wanted to set the example. I wanted her to see me winning. Bingo. So now when I'm speaking to her and I'm saying, Aliana, you could do anything that you want in life. You can be anybody that you want in life. You can do big things. You can be successful. You can live a life. But she sees dad setting the example first.
Come on, baby.
And I think that's what we're missing. I think we just need to arm ourselves with the information because it's out there.
Yeah.
Go read the books. Go surround yourself in environments where people can help you overcome these things. Like Patrick Bet-David is a CEO of CEOs. I've had the incredible honor through you of having to speak to him and to be mentored by him and just being in rooms with him. But the things that he's talking about and the things that he's doing, like, we all have access to that information. And if there's one thing that I know about him, like, he is so big on, like, not just accepting what other people say. Like, if you're going to tell me this, go show me the evidence, go show me the data, and let's have a conversation about it. And if I don't agree with you, this is why I don't agree with you. The information is out there for us to go find. And if we as a family unit are making sure that we're locked in step by step with our values and our principles. And I think those are two words that are not discussed in homes very much any day, anymore. We find somebody, he looks good, she's pretty. Oh, I like you, you like me. I like the way you make me feel. Yeah. Hey, let's get married. And we're not talking about too much feeling. Like, I love, you hear Pat talk about this story all the time. I think it was like his second or third date with Jen, where they talked about it was like, what's important to you, and they went through that
1,001 question.
The 1,000 before you, yes, like, who do you have in your corner these days? Like, who do you have that's encouraging you to do those exercises and making sure that the person that you're getting with is your person. You have this similar values and principles. And when you're a united front, the devil can't come in your home and rip your family apart with these things. Not when you're a strong united front and you're leading with faith and you're leading with spirituality.
Why don't we do that exercise? Let's ask ChatGPT right now, the voice mode.
Yeah.
How to destroy America. Do you want to do it?
Yeah, let's do it.
If I was an enemy of America, how would I destroy America?
That's a serious question. It's important to focus on positive actions and solutions instead. What concerns do you have that make you feel this way?
What's going on in the news today? If I was an enemy of America, how would I destroy America?
That's a pretty intense question. Rather than thinking about destruction, focusing on building and improving can be more productive. Is there something specific on your mind you'd like to discuss?
So, by the way, I'm glad it's good at doing that because if I'm just, if I really was mad,
Sure.
if I wanted to take down American families, if I was a devil, I want to take down American families, how would I do it?
That's a heavy topic. It's often said that strong families are built on communication, support, and love. What concerns do you have about family life that are making you think this way?
Finances.
Finances can definitely put a strain on families. What specific financial challenges are you thinking about?
Not having enough money and fighting inflation.
Those are definitely big concerns. Budgeting carefully, building an emergency fund, and finding additional income streams can help. Are you looking for strategies to manage these issues?
So, what do we found? I'm glad that it's not giving us the steps
Right.
to do it.
Oh.
But there's one out there called, it was Paul Harvey.
Uh-huh.
Paul Harvey talked about, if I was a devil, here's how I would take out America.
Yeah, I've seen it. So I think that's probably like a newer update.
Yeah, I wonder.
Because I've definitely seen, like, if you act like, what would it do? It would create discord. It would create uncertainty. It would
Yeah.
introduce social media into the household.
Yeah.
All those things. I think the family dynamic is such an important piece that we're missing today.
What did Paul Harvey say about what the devil would do to destroy America?
In 1965, Paul Harvey broadcast a message titled, "If I Were the Devil." He outlined how he would undermine America by subverting churches, promoting immoral behavior, and weakening family structures, believing that these actions would lead society astray.
That's it.
Weakening family structure. Right there. That's the key. Weakening family
So
structure.
if you want to destroy America, you weaken the family structure.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, we got some reactions here that we're going to discuss. So before I get into that, here's one we wanted to do. Speaking of weakening the family structure, President Trump calls out Maine Governor Janet Mills for refusing to keep men out of women's sports. So let's take a look at this video.
Okay.
The NCAA has complied immediately, by the way. That's good. But I understand Maine. Is Maine here, the governor of Maine? Well, are you not going to comply with it?
I'm complying with the state and federal laws.
We are the federal law. Well, you better do it. You better do it because you're not going to get any federal funding at all if you don't. And by the way, your population, even though it's somewhat liberal, although I did very well there, your population doesn't want men playing in women's sports. So you better comply because otherwise you're not getting any federal funding.
See you in court.
Every state, good. I'll see you in court. I look forward to that. That should be a real easy one. And enjoy your life after governor because I don't think you'll be in elected politics.
Damn. All right. So first issue.
Yeah.
How do you feel about women having to deal with men identifying as women to play in their sport?
I think it's ridiculous. If you're born, listen, I'm for inclusion. I want to make that clear. Like, I'm for, like, if you were born a man, but you feel like you're a woman, and that's the journey you want to take, more power to you. You want me to call you a woman? You want me to call you she? I'll call you she. You want me to call you a light bulb? I'll call you a freaking light bulb. Like, I'll give you the respect for you to identify however you want to identify.
Yeah.
But if you were born a male, and when it comes to sports, particularly, there are certain advantages. This is why there's men's boxing and there's women's boxing.
Sure.
This is why we have men's soccer and why we have women's soccer. Men's bodies are designed differently. Our muscle density is completely different. Men are typically inherently stronger, more testosterone than women. That's why we have
Bone structure.
The bone structure is different. Like, everything from the cellular level in comparing a biological man to a biological woman is different. So again, don't lay a dead bird at my feet. I think there could be a simple solution. You can have men's sports where biological men play men's sports. You can have women's sports where biological women play women's sports, and then maybe we can create a third class, a transgender. And then if you're a man and you identify as a woman and you want to play soccer with a woman who identifies as a man, and I don't know, he, she, them wants to play, then more power to you.
Like a special Olympics.
Sure. But I have a problem as a girl dad for a biological man, someone who's born with a man, the thought process of a man, the way a man's brain is wired and what a man thinks and sees and finds attractive. Like it's different than how a woman's brain works biologically, chemically. More power to you, or any school, which is why I'm thankful I'm able to put, private school and be able to afford those opportunities for my kids. But if you ever tried to stick a biological man in a locker room with my daughter,
that was the next.
You and I are going to have words, and we're going to go round and round. And I'm not that type of individual.
After the game, Andre, they got to take a shower.
Yes.
After the game, they got to shower down now. You can't leave the locker room stinking.
Right. And I'll tell you, I just, I've been talking about this, and I recently just got back into the gym, and you'll finish your workout, and there's always that one guy that's just way too comfortable with being butt naked, doing squats in the locker. There's always that one guy, right? Listen, a man's locker room is for a biological man. A woman's locker room is for a biological woman. I think it's setting a precedent that you can't compare. We're not comparing apples to apples. We're not having the same conversation. Like if you put a biological man in a pool with a biological woman, that is not a fair advantage. That is an unfair advantage to biological women. You have these women that have been training their entire lives, have dedicated their entire lives 2 days, 3 days, 4-day practices in the pool, on the court, on the field, dedicating their entire lives, getting stronger, getting faster, developing their skills, honing their craft, to now just for one policy for somebody to say, nope, Matt or Maria, Matea, you're now on the women's volleyball league. You're on the women's basketball league. It's like I'm all for equality. I'm all for people having the right to identify how they want to be identified. I'm all for that. I have no issue with that. But men need to be kept out of women's sports.
I don't know why that is a difficult thing to understand. There's I was about to say this before even Trump. It's not a Trump thing. I'm just thinking common sense.
Yeah. I don't understand why this is even a debate. I don't understand why this is a debate, and I'm not looking to offend anybody. And I understand people may have a different opinion on it. And you know what? I would love to have a conversation.
I want them to compete. I want them to go out and
compete.
Right. But not at the expense
of
you forcing your thought process on what we understand as two different genders.
Right.
And so, I'm not going to find myself very comfortable either finding a biological mother. One day he says, you know what? I grew up a male, but now today I think I'm a woman. And you're now in the same showers as whatever, and I'm not
with full male parts, and you just identify. The only thing that's a woman is here. That does it.
That's it, man.
Yeah.
So there's other reaction here. I want your opinion on. Sure. How do you tell a true believer, not by what he or she says, but what he or she does? Let's take a look at this video.
Do not be hearers of the word only, for if you do, you are what? Deceiving your own selves. My great burden starts with the church, because I believe the church is filled with self-deceived people, many of whom have been victimized by a shallow gospel, what Dietrich Bonhoeffer called cheap grace, easy believism. Jesus says not everyone who says, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but the one whose pattern of life is doing the will of the Father. So how do you tell a true believer? Not by what he says or she says, but by what he or she does. Now follow verse 22. What's the first word in verse 22? What is it? Many. Now where did we hear that word before? In what verse? Verse 13. Now listen to this. The many who got on the broad road are the many who will show up at the end and say, Lord, Lord, haven't we prophesied in your name, preached? Haven't we in your name cast out demons? And in your name haven't we done many wonderful works?
Wow, that's a powerful thing. You know, and I pray that my life's work, and some people will agree with it or not. But I want to remind everybody of the Great Commission found in Matthew 28, verse 16 through 20. Jesus commanded his disciples to go, therefore, make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and Son and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that I have commanded you. And when I see you, brother, not only making a great living for your family, but taking care of your daughter, but living a life with Christ. Yeah. Oh my gosh. And that's a relationship I can't understand. That's between you and God.
Yeah.
To me, that's fruitfulness. Right? And then people are going to see you, the way you live your life. Oh, Andre, God. And that's not to say our life is perfect. Mm-hmm. Like things are supposed to go perfect in our life. When I read the Bible, when I read the book of Job, Job had the wife, he had kids, he had business, everything going on. And God and the devil are having a conversation. And then next thing you know, the devil releases an attack. And God says, that guy's not going to stop praising me. Yeah, he came up with take his wife away, take his kids away, take his health away, everything. And in the process, Job's having a problem with it. Yeah. It's like, I'm calling around. Like, and then God says, who are you to ask me? I created all this stuff. You're going to ask me? I'm God. Did you forget? Of course, I'm paraphrasing.
Sure.
But in that Job's like, yeah, you're right, God. You're right. And then because of God seeing Job in that humility. And guess what God did after that? He blessed him back with what was before, but times 10, times 20, times 100. That, to me, man, I pray that anybody that listens to this podcast, listen to your conversation with me on the podcast here, they can just not be fruitful. Like, you're going to have fruit in your life.
Sure.
But have other people around you. Like, people are blessed, Andre, to be around you. I see your team right now. I see how they act. The pride they have to be working together with you. Being flag carriers. The only team in the office that has a flag, somebody carrying a flag in the office. And everybody's calling you up. And it's competition within that office,
yeah,
right?
I love that, by the way.
I want that flag. I want that there. I want to compete with this. I just want to carry your flag. People are like, you ain't going to take this flag.
Yeah.
Because there's pride behind it. Because that's your culture. That's
Sure.
the culture of your agency, the culture of your business. What's your thoughts on that, man?
Here's how I can say this. Like, I am so thankful to be part of this organization. It's not about the money. It's not about the finances. It's not even about the purpose. Like, this company brought me to God, period. This company brought me to God. And it has nothing to say with my parents. My mom brought me to church every Sunday. My grandfather on both my parents' sides were ministers. My grandfather traveled the world, opened up churches before he passed away, preached the word of God, spoke the word of God to me. I don't know why I was a knucklehead. It just didn't sink in. But being in this environment and being around these people and seeing how we're so open with, we don't force it on anybody, right? But I just love how, like, we're open. It's a place where people who are looking for something can feel included and feel comfortable in doing it, feel comfortable about talking about. I never spoke about God. I never spoke about Jesus. I never spoke about Christ publicly prior to PHP. I didn't even pray. And just to be in an environment where I can be comfortable and it's accepted and nobody feels pressured to be able to do it, and you can express yourself in a way that allows you to be able to express yourself. I can't even put into words of how grateful I am to be in an organization like this that allows me to be able to do this and have this conversation with you and with your audience, and be able to speak this way in front of my team. And, you know, they see what we're going through and what we're trying to do and what we're trying to accomplish and where we want to go. I wasn't speaking about vision before. I know it's funny. I did this exercise with my team yesterday. I called a couple of people on my team yesterday and I said, hey, if anybody was to pull you aside right now and just ask you, what is the mission and vision of your organization? Like, what would you say? Like, what would your response be? And, you know, they said to empower 33,000 individuals to take control of their financial destination through servitude and leadership to build wealth and realize their dreams. That is our mission statement. Wow. Every meeting after the meeting, everybody in my organization, we all stand up and we all repeat that phrase and we all buy into it. And, you know, somebody asked me, why 33,000? Why not 30,000? Why not 35,000? I said, my goal and my vision for this organization is we're going to free 1,000 people from the shackles of their job and from the shackles of not having their finances straight. We're going to free 1,000 people for every year Jesus Christ walked the earth. That is our mission. That is our goal. And that's what we want to do.
Amen.
And we will have a team 33,000 strong.
Yeah.
And it's going to start with us. We're bringing 50. I told you.
Yeah.
We're bringing 50 to Vegas,
Yeah.
right? That's going to happen. But,
Love it,
I'm
bro.
just excited for where we're going. I'm excited to be a part of this organization. I'm excited for my family. I'm excited for my team. I'm excited for MSM, this organization, and everything that we're doing, the Money Smart movement. And it's been an incredible ride. And it's hard to think that it hasn't even been 4 years yet. And I'm really, really excited about the future, my continued walk with Christ, building this business, building relationships with you and your family, and seeing where MSM is going to go and how we're going to dominate this organization and how we are really going to provide value in the form of education to free people. Like, I was a paramedic for 23 years. I saved lives for a living. That's what I got paid to do, to save lives. I got paid to be on my best game so that when you needed me, I could be there for you. That was my career. That was my job. And I will save more lives doing this. Like, I will literally save more lives, because if I can sit in front of you and get somebody who believes life insurance is a scam, get somebody who doesn't believe, and because of the knowledge and the information that I now possess through your leadership, your mentorship, and now I could sit down with somebody and just get them to go, huh.
Yeah, exactly.
I hadn't considered that. Nobody's ever explained that's my only goal. That's my only goal, is just to get you to go realize that, hey, there's more to it. Let's just have a conversation. Let's talk. If it's not for you, hey, it's not for you. But you know what you'll never be able to say to me after today? Dre, why didn't you tell me?
Yeah,
and that's my only goal.
Yeah, because now it's on them.
Now it's on you.
Right? Because you planted that seed. So, guys, I appreciate you for watching this podcast. Make sure you follow Andre. We'll put all his links here at the bottom too as well. And my prayer for you is this. Make sure if you've received something from this podcast, you received something from Andre, that you do something about it. You may not be in a position financially where what you think to do something about it, but just as myself and Andre have experienced, and many other guests has been on this podcast, is when you are in the worst position, you're actually in the best position. And when you're in the worst position, that's when God does his best work. But you got to be open. You got to be listening. You got to be asking. And God will answer your prayers, my brothers and sisters. He'll answer your prayers, but not in the way you think. Oftentimes people ask for a certain prayer. God, deliver it to me this way.
Right.
It's never going to be that way. Like, when's the last time you thought, hey, I'm going to go be an adult and have a child, and guess what, babe? I'm going to be in the insurance business. I'm going to get an insurance license.
Yeah.
I'm going to be at this company called PHP, right? You don't think that way. People find this, or this has an opportunity for people to see something in themselves where they've never thought about themselves that way before, because you're on a different type of proximity. That being said, Andre, appreciate you being on the podcast.
Hey, Matt, appreciate you. Great to be here, man.
100%, bro.
Looking forward to it.
100%. That being said, if you've got any value from this, please put your biggest takeaways in the comment section below. If you've done so, you haven't done so yet, please make sure you subscribe and share this with other people they think would be encouraged and inspired by duCille. From Dallas, Texas, I'm your Money Smart guy. Until we meet again, continue to live smart, continue to love smart, and be money smart today.